Alright guys, welcome back. First of all, let me know, can you hear me on this YouTube if you're online? So just type in a chat message loud and clear or absolutely horrible and disgusting. So hello Ahmed, hello Mendes, Jesus, whoever is watching now or later. So today we'll have a first session of season 2. So this is episode 1. So luckily we were not cancelled by Netflix. We were not cancelled because I'm racist and all the other things which I am. So I'm still not politically cancelled. So yeah. So Kanye is a great guy. Don't cancel Kanye. You know. So yeah. Listen to what he has to say. Let's see, am I going to get cancelled now? YouTube immediately. Okay. Now Elon Musk is also a little bit crazy, and you know, he should have done what he has done. So yes, please cancel my Twitter account. It's follow us at Alihaba at Twitter while you can. So yeah, I have a cold, so I might make cold sound noises throughout the stream, so I do apologize. See how Khalil is like, you know, sitting as far as he can from me. Yeah, it's gone. It's just my smoking is making me, you know, coughing more than I should. So don't worry too much about it. Okay, so today we are going to talk about logs. Okay. But before we start into logs, I just want to show you a little bit, and this is great graphics prepared by copy paste. So I will switch to this screen. So I asked the people to give us some ideas of what sort of stuff they would like to talk about. So please tell me, you know, what you want covered. Okay, so on the screen you can see some of these ideas. So number 11 is server logs. That's what we are talking about today. And Andre, DJ are here, but also later on maybe Thomas and Ahmed will help a little bit in the second part. If you have any ideas that you don't see here that we maybe covered but it wasn't good, you want to cover it again, something completely new, doesn't matter, let me know and we can add it to the list. And also, if you are really interested to get some of these earlier, then also let me know, because the next session might take place on Thursday. Make a bit closer, it's not so great. Well, it's just underneath me, so, and it's maximum. Sorry. Can you say something to them? Maybe yours.
No.
Okay. Well, sorry about microphone quality. I can hold it like this.
That's not.
And then the snap killed them all. You know, they are all on the headphones. Like, why did you do that? So anyway, as I was saying, if you would like any of these sessions to come earlier, let me know, because I can move them around. So hopefully we get what you need to know. So that's the introduction. Now what I want to do is tell you things about the logs. Okay, so what are logs? All right, and what types of logs do we have? Okay, so guys on the chat, okay, what types of logs do we have? What can we log? Okay, what logs do you know about? So type in the chat, okay, what logs do you have? Okay, then I'll ask the same thing in a group here. So in a second, because I don't think they can see your chat. So let's see what happens, okay? So come on, type very quickly. Julia, what is one log that you know of?
I know two error logs and access logs.
Error log and access log, okay? Thomas says log in and log out. What do you mean?
He's not wrong.
I don't know what he means. Confusing the people. Okay, so Thomas, what is the log in or out or cron jobs? Menna says. Okay, interesting. What else? Do you know any logs, Thomas?
Console logs.
Console logs. Okay, there are console logs. DJ, do you know any logs that we didn't mention so far?
Well, we have celery logs, we have unicorn logs, we have Django logs. So any kind of application might have its own logs. That
Ahmed says log info, and you say celery and unicorn and all that sort of stuff, okay? So, yeah. So first I need to clarify a little bit, and maybe it's a little bit basic, okay? So just the basic terminology to start with, okay? So we have a server, okay, which is just like a development machine. It's a machine which is running our back end code, okay? That's a server, back end. And we are going today to talk about logs on the back end and briefly touch the client side, okay? So that's the first thing. Typically, in 99% of the cases, log is just a text file, okay? So it's just a text file, and typically the extension is .log, so we know that is a text file which contains the log about something, but it doesn't have to have .log. We can be .whatever, .text. It will still work, but typically you will recognize them by having .log as extension. So it's a text file. Now what is in the text file? Okay, what is written? It's a text, okay? What text is written in there?
it can be normal information about the application, or it can be errors or warnings or
Yeah, so information about application, error warnings, what else? What do you think, guys, in the room? Well, Mr. DJ summarized it quite well. This is mostly what it is, but we can write whatever we want to the error log and whenever we want, okay? So when we say if the application is working very good, we can write a log to measure, for example, how long it executes, okay? So we can see how long our controllers are executing, requests are executing, etc., etc. We can write how many people are on our server, what are they doing on the server, what are the pages that they're requesting. We can write all sorts of information about the application, about the errors. And if we have errors, we can write full description of the error, what happened inside our system while we were not looking, okay? Because the point is that whatever happens on the server side, whatever happens, we can log that. That's the great thing. So basically, every application should have a log. Because no application is perfect, no application understands everything what is happening on while users are using it. So that's why pretty much every application can have a log. And it can have one log, it can have 2 logs, 3 logs, okay? And also it can have a different level of logging, okay? So it can be very verbose, okay? That means that it writes everything that we can think of. So it's a very big file with lots of text and text and text. Or it can just give you errors. So only errors are written. Nothing else is in the log except errors, okay? So we choose on the server what type of logs for each application we want to have. Okay, so when we say access log or error log or cron job or log info or all these logins and logouts, basically it tells me, you know, you are either a little bit joking or a little bit confused about this, okay? Because the log belongs to the application, okay? So when you say Unicorn, that's an application, or Django, that's an application, or Apache, that's the application. They can have their own logs. Does it make sense? Okay. So today I want to show you some of very complex error logs and the worst and the best system, of course, out there is CodeTown's system. So they have a whole variety of logs. Okay, so I'm going to use the help of DJ or Khalil, as he sometimes likes to be called for some reason, I don't know. So he's going to help us and show us all the logs that you can find on this server. Then we'll show some other things as well, okay? And we will see how these logs can help us in various problems, you know. So hopefully you will see this, and I can maybe zoom in a little bit. That's too much. Okay. No. Okay, can I make this thing bigger on your screen? Oh, yes, I can. Okay, so what happened? I hope that you can see his screen on behind us, and you can see it here. He is on the terminal, okay? And on the terminal, he is connected to the actual live server of Herlen. So don't let Herlen Council, Robin, I'll send you the email later, know that we are doing this, or Greg, please. So he's connected there, and he's in the terminal, so he's connected through SSH, so we can see exactly what is going on the server now. Of course, if he types some command like format C, he can delete all the data and destroy the server in no time if he wants to. So we will try to avoid doing that. Okay, so we have to be careful of what we are doing on a live server, because any change that we make might have serious consequences. So what we are going to do is just look at stuff. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to look at stuff without breaking the stuff, okay, understanding what's going on. This text file that we are talking about, this log file, can be stored anywhere, okay, in any folder, okay. Typically, it would make sense that all of them are stored in the same folder, so when we look for them, we can find them all in one place, okay. That's typically the case. It's not always the case, as you will see a little bit later, but that's also fine. As long as you know where they are, easy peasy, okay? So on Ubuntu, most of the stuff is in the folder var and then subfolder log. So if you LSLA, show us what is inside here. Okay, quite a lot of things we need to scroll up and down. Why I did LSLA is just to show you that these text files, okay, belong to different people, different users and different groups, okay? So I'll cover that in a second. So maybe just do ls so we can see everything on one page. Okay, so these are the logs, okay? So I gave a task to DJ to figure out what all of these logs are for. So now he can tell you what the hell is each one of these files for, and hopefully he will. If he doesn't, you know, please write in, you know, offensive jokes in the chat as usual.
Offensive. Well, in the beginning, I didn't really find out what alternatives.log is. But for example, auth log is people that are authorized to go in. So every time someone logs in, we can really actually see it here in auth.log. And then we have, for example, Celery. These are the logs for Celery. Gunicorn, the logs for Gunicorn. Postgres, Nginx, so on. UFW log is the logs for the firewall. Mail is the mail. Let's Encrypt is the logs for the thing we used for the SSL certificates. I'm not sure about everything else. You can always.
Okay, so what we said that each application that is running on this machine, this Ubuntu computer, can have its log. And we said most of them will be stored here. So this is a cool one, UWF, okay? Because this is the application, as you say, firewall, okay? So if I want to look at firewall, I just say nano, which is my favorite editor, and UWF, okay? And enter, yeah, so let's see what's inside.
It's empty.
It's empty. What does it mean?
It means that nothing was written into the log.
Genius.
It could be that firewall wasn't configured to write anything except errors, for example, and there was no errors.
Exactly. So as you can see, some of the logs, depends on the configuration, will have, as I said, verbose, you know, so they will write like tons of text, and some will just write errors. If there were no errors on, but what errors do we expect from firewall? Well, what errors I expect from firewall? Well, firewall is the application which either works or it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, it will throw the error. So this application always works, so there are no errors. But maybe I want to see who tried to, you know, who is the other block users and so on, okay? But that's not the object of the goal, object of the logs, okay? So typically we see errors, but we can see if we configure our application to do stuff like, okay, who are the users who try to log in and so on. Now we have,
I know for a fact that the other log has stuff in it.
yeah.
So do you want me to see it?
Yeah. So here's UFW log 1, okay? Now let me explain a few things here for you guys. Okay, can you control X this, okay? So typically .log is the current version where the stuff is written. Once that gets too big, okay, Ubuntu makes older versions available. So this .1, .2, .3, .4 would be older versions of the same log. So it's not one huge file, so it gets chunked into smaller pieces, okay? Now this .gz, does anyone know what that is?
It's an archive file.
Archive file, yes. So this is a gzip or just a zip file. So basically they zip them so they don't take lots of space, because as you will see, these logs can get very big. Okay, so go back to that log 1, please. All right, so here we see typically the dates, okay, and the time. Now, what I have to say to you, and I know that you keep forgetting this time is not the time which is on your clock, okay? So, this is a server time, which is GMT, okay, time. Okay, so this is the same time always and ever. So that's 0 time, okay, 0 time zone, which doesn't change for the summer savings time or anything like that, okay? It's always the same time. So in Netherlands or UK, for example, we are always +1 or +2. Okay, so when I look at 00, that's midnight server time. In Netherlands, it would be either +1 hour or +2 hours. So when you are checking what happened right now, you have to remember that this time will be offset by 1 or 2 hours. And if you're in the United States, it will be 9 hours or whatnot, okay? Now, there is one thing, because here the problem is that these logs go forever to the right, okay? So you have to scroll to the right, all right? It's not too bad, all right. So what the hell does this all mean, Mr. DJ?
Well, what we're reading in the beginning is that UFW blocked. So the firewall blocked a request or something from an IP, which is this, into the destination IP, which is the IP of Asia. But it doesn't say it in any readable way what it blocked.
It's perfectly readable to me.
What's they blocked 1024 window, or what? DBT 3333.
It's DPT, of course. Sometimes this data is confusing, and we haven't got a clue what does it mean, okay? And this is typically what we do. When I see a text in Chinese, I immediately close that book and throw it away, because I know I don't speak Chinese, so it makes no sense to me, okay? So when you look at these bloody numbers and letters which are like randomly written here, you're like, there's no information for me here that I can extract, okay? And that's fine, you know. But today's lesson is to actually go in and understand at least some of these logs, not all of them, okay? Some which are very important for us, okay? So this one does show the IP address, which is interesting. So this is the IP address of the computer which tried to hack us, probably. And its MAC address and shows few other bits of information which I have no idea what they mean, really, you know. But it doesn't matter, okay? We are not going to particularly look into this fire wall log, but I will look into access log now a little bit more, okay? But this access log, as I said, which application this belongs to?
Which access log?
Which access log?
So there could be an access log for different applications, right?
Okay,
So
but where is the access log here?
For what application?
Well, what access logs do you know?
Gunicon, for example.
Gunicon has access log, okay? Now, the typical one, the one that I mean, is the server, web server access log. So on app source platforms, typically we have Apache, and on this one we have Nginx, which is same web server, okay? So if we see what's inside, okay, we have access log and the whole history of access logs. And you can see these files, they are 100 kilobytes, or you know, whatever they are, I don't know, they are not so small, they do add up. And then we have the error log, which is, you know, for example, this application has 2 logs. Okay, let's nano access log. Okay, so this one is interesting, okay? Because first, as you can see, there is no format that logs have to follow. Okay, so the date, time is not the first thing, etc., etc. Sometimes the most recent activity can be on top, and then I'm very grateful if that's the case. So I don't have to scroll down, but usually it's on the bottom. So if this is a big file, I have to scroll forever. But you don't have to, because DJ has a trick for you, okay? So what do you do?
If you do Control W and then Control V, you'll jump to the bottom.
So Control W, Control V. Easy to remember, no problems. I'm sure that everybody is now, oh, why the hell did I scroll through that file 1,000 times? You know, why didn't you tell me this before? Okay, so we can see that on 8th of November at 1418 plus 001, so basically 1418 is just now. So this one shows me the time zone, so basically it shows me in my time zone, which is great.
I mean,
Okay.
it says +1. So.
Yeah, it says +1, so I know it's not the server time. So again, what I just said, there's no, you can write whatever you want, and the formats are sometimes confusing. So this is +1, so this is what happened. So somebody from the IP address 255.88.160, okay, at this time went to get index.php. Brilliant, okay? So this is index.php is our, what the hell? Django? Where's index.php in,
Nginx.
no, Nginx can support PHP, but this whole server is front end is Angular, back end is Django, okay? So Python.
Python, yeah.
Where's the index.php? We don't have index.php. And it's not just that it is like index.php, but there is like slash this, slash that, you know. So it's a very weird request that this person was like trying to pass to our server. So see one above, okay, and see one above that, okay. Let's look at this request, okay. So the one where he's don't move your okay, where the cursor is flashing, okay. So this 10 minutes before, whatever, is from some other computer, which I can see that made multiple requests to the server, okay, all at the same time. So and he was getting a page from the server, okay. So get assets, images, banner, okay, .png, okay. So I can see that this person was normal person browsing my website on specific page, and he was downloading, or she, or whatever the gender, the normal page and content of the page, and part of that page is our banner image, okay. And I can see that it was HTTP 2.0 request, okay, so which I expect because this is what we have, HTTP 2 running on this server. And then I see code 200, so I know this request was successful, okay. And if I scroll later, but don't do it now, I can see the, you know, browser details and etc. Okay, but this request looks perfectly normal to me. Okay, but you see the quotes. The quotes are before the get, and then the quotes are after this HTTP 2.0, and then I have 200. So let's look at the quotes on the last sentence, because you will probably need to scroll without mouse with your key, your intended. Okay. So quotes start here. Yeah, keep going, keep going. Find me the. Oh, hold on.
That's not double quote, that's one quote.
Yeah. But see. So
It's trying to give permission.
chmod 777. What the hell does that do?
Change the
Yes.
permissions.
What permissions does it?
Permissions.
All permissions. So he's trying to thank pop PHP, remove thank pop PHP, and then you see the quotes at the end. It's HTTP 1.1. Okay, we can move the cursor there so people know where to look. And then, of course, he is getting messages like 400, etc., etc. Okay?
Caught them red-handed.
I mean, it's just a script getting.
Okay. So, as you will see in this access log, okay, you have normal requests, perfectly normal, you can recognize them, but you can also recognize all sorts of hacking attempts. And this is not some dude in Nebraska sitting in his cellar typing all this. These are the bots, the script. Somebody wrote a script that goes from any IP address, so it just checks any server, random servers, tries this, tries that, tries that, tries that, gets blocked, goes to the next server, okay? But sometimes, because they are looking for vulnerabilities, sometimes this actually runs, and they are in.
Why do they do this? To get your database?
Not just that.
They do it for various reasons, just because they can, okay? I hacked CIA, I'm a big guy,
User information, credit cards, stored, all that stuff. It depends, mostly.
yeah.
But they just do a script and attack anything they can, and if something returns something to them,
So, so this access log is very important, because if you are not sure did you get hacked or not, and servers do get hacked, this is what I check, because I check when one of these weird ones actually went through. And based on what the hell they are doing, we can then make a planned intelligent action how to resolve this issue, okay? But you will see that these are full of these. There are hundreds and hundreds every minute of these requests going on, and they never go through because we have good protection, but it's not perfect. So one of them, at some point, will go through. Can you scroll up a little bit, just past this stuff? What's this request for 45, that above?
This?
Yeah, what's that?
Hash, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so this guy is like sending us hexadecimal codes or whatever the codes that he's trying to put some hash thing, whatever, as a cookie. So see what is happening. Probably some application, web application, has a cookie which is called MST hash, and probably is administered. So this one is somehow trying to get that cookie, because if you have that cookie, it means you are logged in. So he's trying to send us somehow this cookie. Of course, it got 400, and so it didn't get through. But you see, there are many multiple ways that you can try to do this. So let's go to this one below, okay? So it says Apple WebKit Linux 537, yeah.
Headless Chrome.
Headless Chrome Safari, okay? So these are typically headers of your browser, okay? So even from here, I can see what browser do you have, okay? So I can see here what page, when, who are you, and everything else, okay? Very, very simple. Let's just go up a little bit. Maybe I will see one more interesting before I move back up. Options, finances, transaction, okay, let's keep scrolling. Okay, we still have some hash values there. Okay, so these look like normal: get profile picture, get accounts, get coin balance, get profile picture. So, you can see very easily what is going on. You can see multiple requests from the same IP address, so that's kind of normal behavior. User is on the page, he's checking accounts, getting images, whatever not, and so on and so on. What's the
setup CGI.
setup CGI?
what is this?
So, do you think this is a valid request?
Yes.
Yeah, I always.
Yes, that's perfectly valid request.
Why did you have to expose me?
Yeah, okay. So as you can see, this guy, netgear.cfg, because most of us have routers and quite often they are netgear, netgear config file. So it's trying to, if your router is not set up or not protected, you know, when you set up the router for the first time, you have to log into a browser interface.
Mm.
Maybe it's something to do with that, exploring some vulnerability. He doesn't know this is a server, that there is no Netgear router there. But he just runs scripts, you know, if he hits your home, and if your router is some old version of Netgear, yeah, probably screwed. At least you will have this lovely message from our sponsors. fuckyou.xd.mips.currentpath.com.
Yeah.
But what do you do when you see it? I mean, if it's not success, you just ignore?
What do you do when you see it? Okay, so nobody is sitting and looking at these logs 24/7. Okay, but what we want to do is, if we think the server has been breached, okay, if we think we might have been hacked, all right, then we need to check these access logs and check these suspicious behavior, who the hell are these people, etc., etc., and what did they try to achieve, because we have to get to the bottom of it. And we can see access log, normal, what's that?
Mhm.
And keep going. This is why we don't delete those zip files, because it can be in the one before. Okay, let's exit access log. Okay, let's jump very quickly into error log. Well, not a lot of errors.
It's been a while.
So all these errors actually happen on 3 days. 6th, 7th, and 8th of November, which was like what?
Today, yesterday, and the day before.
Yeah. So probably the previous file has that, okay? Now, this is, we have to understand the concept here, okay? In Django applications like we have, which where the front end is Angular, okay, Nginx actually doesn't serve any pages whatsoever. Okay, so all the requests are proxied, so it means they are sent to,
Mhm.
okay, Gunicon, right? So, and then Gunicon deals with them. And Gunicon, as I said in one of the sessions before, it's a dispatcher. It just dispatches, you know, this is request for the shop, this is request for the mobile app, this is for the APIs, this is for the admin panel. So it dispatches the request further on, okay? So of course, if those requests fail, they will fail on that side, okay? And that side will log them.
Mhm.
But as far as Nginx is concerned, everything worked fine. I sent a request and it was accepted over there. So we don't have any errors on Nginx, and I don't expect to have, because it's been proxied, okay? And there are some errors with SSL, which I don't know what the hell they mean, okay? But it's either certificate was not working, or the certificate expired, or something expired, so it was complaining about that. We can Google this request, but we don't have any customers complaining that this doesn't work, and we don't see that there are hundreds of these errors, okay? So everything works fine. So it's worth checking, why the hell is this still reporting this? So I can Google SSL do handshake and see what the hell does it mean, and fix that problem, okay? Because I don't think it should have be here, or at least maybe it's something that I need to be aware of and just ignore that, okay? But typically it doesn't say in brackets crit, which means critical error. Because typically these logs either say info, error, warning, they have little tag, let's call them that, and critical is a big problem. So we should Google this and check it out, what does it mean? We know it works, the server and everything, nobody's complaining, but still that's one thing that I would check just to be on the safe side. Okay, so these logs, boring. Okay, let's go to Gunicon. So as you can see, there are different applications, and different applications have different user and different group. So this is run by Django, okay, and then all the log files belong to this user, okay, which can be very annoying because if I am not logged in as a Django, then I can't edit these files and so on, so I have to switch user. But that's good for security because you know, you just saw a few ideas how we can hack shit, but I can also hack shit by checking the error logs from other applications, and maybe somebody is storing user data and who knows what. So this is very important to have these addressed to the proper user and group, so they belong to them and only them can read and write to these logs. So it has access log itself. Okay, so let's quickly check this access log. So can you just tell us and find the first one?
And the first one is called access.
Yeah, okay, so the first one is access, and then it has versions of them.
It's empty.
Okay, great.
So one actually has something, but
Okay.
this is the last one.
Okay, so which one do you want to show us?
So this is the last one, 11/20/22.
Okay, well, let's see that one. As you can see, it's 5 million bytes, which is 5 megabytes or something like that. So it's huge. And here is our lovely access log, okay? 5th of October, 6th of October, so I can see immediately that the most recent information will be on the bottom, so I have to scroll, and the brown points, don't scroll, we'll stay here. Brown points for everyone who still remembers the shortcut. You are a proper geek, and you know, and I don't like you. Yeah, I still hope to be banned by YouTube. So we can see basically similar size requests. So these are the requests that were passed from Nginx access log to this specific Gunicon. So I expect to see pretty much same stuff. Obviously, because it's a different application, it will log them in slightly different format. And see, this one says +2, so again, it's using your address, your time. And I can see very similar, get this, here's the browser, here's, I can see some Android devices, I can see some iPhones, getting this sort of stuff, okay? So pretty much normal, it's pretty similar, pretty what I expect from this one, okay? Let's look at the error log.
The latest one is actually empty now.
Okay.
But the latest one is the backup that we did. So
Okay.
this is the latest that we had until we did the fix. Then
Okay, and so
we're gonna jump all the way down.
okay, so as I explained, the requests that are logged in Nginx access log are just passed to Gunicon, and we can see they are very similar, or they should be the same, unless our firewall blocked that IP address so we can see it over there. However, error log, there were no errors or just one type of error in Nginx. Here, we have lots of different things happening, okay? And we have an error, okay? So can you scroll to the top of that error, please, okay? Because it just goes on and on and on and on and on, okay? Yeah, more. So
this is
more. Yeah. I want to show that, okay?
okay.
So, okay, so see this number 2022. This is where our log starts, okay? But in this huge file, when you scroll up and down, you have no idea this is where it starts, okay? Because we have pages and pages of this horrible thing, okay? So what we did is we backed up the logs, we created a new log file, and then we ran our code to reproduce the error, and then only the error was written. And then from that, this is how we figure out this is where it starts. And when we did this 3-4 times, then what we realized is that this whole text, current configuration, is basically our configuration for Gunicon sockets and stuff like that. So this information is always the same. It just for some reason wants to be very verbose. So it gives you everything you need to know about this particular error, okay? But the configuration, it wasn't our problem here. So what we have to do once we figure that out is just pass this config file, okay? So all this number of threads, number of workers, the timeout, seconds, keep alive, that's all in our config of our Gunicon system. So can you pass that? Can you now scroll down, please?
You can see the log level here as well, that we are just debugging actually here.
Log level debug. Yep. Now on the server, which is production server, log level should be always production or errors, that's it, okay? I don't want all of this stuff to happen. Unless there is a problem, then I want to enable it for a bit, see what the problem is, and then I go back to that level. On your production, on your development machine, you want development kind of logs. You want all the info, okay? So basically what the problem on this server was, it didn't want to start, okay? So after it read the config, it started Gunicon. See this info, starting Gunicon 20, that's the version, okay? And then it's trying to boot and it's working workers, and then it shows the exception, okay? So now, just like you've seen in any type of framework, when a bug happens, it gives you a thing called stack trace, okay? Because we are running a complex platform where one file calls the other file, one function and that calls the other one, and that one calls 3 others, and that one calls 6 others. So for this particular thing, many files were called in specific order, okay? And I'm thinking, okay, what is the error? And I like to read this beginning. This is the beginning, so it's very hard to find the beginning, but when you find it, the error is typically written at the beginning. It might have some errors later, because if I just do Control-W, Control-Magic to go to the bottom of the file and see the last error and try to fix that error, I'm probably doing it wrong. Because that's not the error. That error is consequence of error before, which is consequence of error before. So I have to fix the first error first, which is somewhere in this file where I have to find it, and this is what I'm trying to show you today, how to find it. So it says, error, missing key. So missing key. and missing key, it tells me email host password was not entered. So it was trying to read email host password.
But it's not finding it.
It's not finding it. Where is that email host password? Where was it?
It's in a config file that we have inside the server.
Yeah, so we have a config file, but we have actually 4 config files, right?
Yeah.
Base,
Base, production, local, and development.
okay. And in which file was this one?
It's in
If you
production.
remember. Well, it's in all 4.
Yeah, it's in all 4, but what we're trying to read was production.
Yeah, but production actually had this specific key,
Yes, that's correct.
but one other didn't. Local didn't.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this was misconfigured because it was reading local instead of production.
Yes.
Okay?
Because we had init.py, and in init.py we were importing base, and then when it actually proxies into production, we also imported base, which kind of created a loop somehow. But
Yeah. So we noticed this bug, we checked our code, we made a push, okay? Now init.py, in this case you have multiple files, so the one that he was showing had nothing to do with it because it's Python init file, Python 3.8 collections, and so on. Because I typically don't suspect that vendor files are at fault, but later today in the second part I will show that they might be. Okay, so typically I don't suspect them, okay, but from here it's clear that the error is I can't read email host password. We went to check where is that defined. It was defined and some other file wasn't. We saw that it was reading each other, so that's somebody copy pasted the stupid line twice, some import, and that was the problem. So what we did, we pushed the code to the server, we updated the server, we ran it again. Okay, and then we got a different error because sometimes you might have 3-4 errors. Okay, but at least this one didn't occur anymore, so we know that we fixed it. Okay, so all this stuff that it says after the error, this is a trace back, so this one called that one, this one called that one, this one called that one, this one called that one. Okay, and then it repeats. You missed it, you can just go back a little bit. So this was the key, you know, because I just didn't check that local py by accident. Because it told me somewhere in this whole bloody huge nonsense, home Django server, blah, blah, settings, local py, at line 49, email host password, is trying to read it from this specific file, and it couldn't read it. Because it says config pass a little bit down 3-4 lines, there is no email host password. Okay? So people ask me quite a few times, hey Andy, can you check what's wrong with this? And I don't understand. And I just look at this and I read what the hell it says on your screen. I read it for you and then I look somehow magical. I, fixed your problem by, but it's just learning how to read these files and where they are, first of all. What is nonsense and what is useful, okay? So we can see clearly what the error is.
Keep scrolling.
Okay. No. As I say, then what I just want to show you before we make a little break, and you guys, as usual, if you have any questions, please put them on chat and just shout them out if you are here, okay? So I just want to show that nano doesn't make any difference. I'm just reading, but nano is editor, so if I type something here or delete something, oops, I can save it, and then I change these log files. Okay, so I'll give you 2 commands, okay, that you can do. So if you Control X this, the 2 commands, what I like to do is the following, okay? I like to rename stuff, okay? Or copy stuff, okay? Now, I like to copy stuff, make a backup, but to make a backup you in Linux you rename. So this error log with underscore that you see on the middle of your screen, okay, that's original error log which I just backed up, okay?
So it was this.
Yeah, so that error log was normal error log. So I just put one underscore, and I know it's me as well, you know. So let's rename this error log to with two underscores. So and now it's not it's MV move.
Yeah,
Okay, so we are moving error log. That's the old name to dash dash. Doesn't matter. You know, it's fine. Error. Okay, so basically this move moves from one folder to another, but if you don't specify folders, it will actually do the rename. Yeah, so enter.
sorry, it should be dash log.
Okay. And see now this file is renamed. Okay, basically it's backed up. Okay, now what I want to do is create a new file in its place. Okay, so the one that I'm going to use. So I say touch underscore error log. Okay, that's the old name that I had. Okay, and LSLA. So now you can see the error log, just like the old file, but it's empty. Okay, so I backed up the error log and I can move it back, and now this one is empty. Now the only problem is Django won't be able to write to this error log. Okay, because it doesn't belong to it. So the last step would be to change ownership to have that as Django. Django, you know how to do that, but he's going to type it anyway, so. Okay, and LSLA. Now, of course, I didn't touch the error and log, the original, so the server still can access it if something happens. But I was giving you example on this one. So that's what we did. So when the error happened, only that thing was in error log. So for us, it was very easy to check stuff out. And then I can delete this temporary error log or keep it as a backup, you know, and it will continue working, and I didn't delete, destroy any information, evidence whatsoever, not, you know, but I make myself life easier. So I just wanted to show you those few commands. Why don't you use copy error log just to copy and backup that way? You can, but what I wanted to do is create empty files, so that's how I wanted to show touch. Okay, so that's a command which people don't usually remember that exists in Ubuntu. So touch creates new empty file.
But why should you keep all error logs?
Why should I? Well,
You can have it for reference for data.
Why?
you know what happens? It happens that your client calls you and says, my customer bought some shoes 3 months ago and he was charged twice. Okay? Can you check it? I was like, well, which customer? Well, I don't know. A customer. Which shoes? I don't know. When exactly was it? Well, 3 months ago. Was it, you know? So they give us this type of information. Somebody is on the phone and bitching at me. So why do I keep them? Okay, because this shows, no, you didn't have a customer, you didn't have those shoes, that never happened, it's somebody is bullshitting you, it's all their evidence was going on. Okay, so we don't delete the logs unless they get too big, but if they are getting too big, then you are too verbose, you need to switch the settings, config file of this application to be not as verbose as it is, and then these are all lovely in size. Okay, guys, that's first hour, so we'll have a 5-minute break, and then we'll go to the next part. We'll still talk about logs, but we'll do upsource and other stuff So thank you very much, Mr. DJ, and guys, talk to you in 5 minutes. Right, you can kill that we are muted, or we are not. We are muted
I
now.
just killed everyone.
Okay, you can get rid of your computer, you can leave the Skype. Stop sharing.
Dun, 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 dun.
Что не запуск?
Oh, no. No. Worked out at home. Yeah, I'm training. I've been injured. Can't actually climb.
No, but we can. Still do the pull-ups. Keep the strength. I will see today if I manage to.
Like this or like this?
Both.
Does it matter? Yeah, makes a big difference. This is 10 times easier than this. Here you're using biceps and here you're using.
Yeah, and when you're climbing like this.
Yeah, and you feel the difference. Right? How many can you do?
Yeah, I actually didn't work out in a really long time.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I can do even one. Are they jump or from the floor?
From the floor.
From the floor.
Doesn't matter, just jump, it's fine.
On the floor. You're dork.
I actually can.
Did I try? Come on.
I mean, back in school.
No jumping. No jumping from the floor.
Can't do everything now.
No, try with the jump.
Yeah, with jump it's easier.
No, too heavy now.
And now the opposite way. Instead of biceps, like this. So much harder.
I used to be able to do the stairs thing, right? But it's been like in 2 years, I didn't do any workout. I just got fatter.
Okay, Thomas, I will do 20 minutes maybe of my stuff, and then I'll call you to join me, and we'll get Ahmed to share screen, etc. Okay, and then we can do the rest of it. Alright guys, we are back. I hope you can still hear me. I put my microphone there so maybe it will work better. Let me know if it doesn't. So I'm going to show you a few things now, and after that we'll get Thomas to join us and Ahmed to share screen. And I didn't patch Ahmed's sound, so we won't hear Ahmed, but at least he can share the screen and show us the things that are needed to be shown there. And might be delay because of streaming, so we'll bear with him when that happens, okay? So what I want to show you is access logs on few of AppSource projects, okay? So as you can see, I'm in Project Animus, sign in, okay? And here we are, okay? I'm inside the web browser, okay? So web browser is a client to this server, okay? And what does this have to do with the logs on the server? Well, AppSource is much easier because in our settings, utilities, we have logs viewer, okay? So it's nice and convenient thing to see what is going on the server.
Zoom out. It's cut off.
Okay, zoom out because it's cut off because this was Skype and now it's not Skype. Okay, thank you, Thomas. Let me adjust this. That's it. All right. So, and I can maybe now zoom in so you can see it a little bit bigger. Okay. So for the convenience, okay, the application which is running here is a Laravel application, and as I said, every application that runs can have its own error logs, okay? And this is Laravel log, so, and this specifically is my admin, okay? Because my admin is a Laravel application which has its own log, and I can see all the stuff here. And this viewer obviously checks this text file and then breaks it down into much more readable format. So this is the same information, but it's easier to see, okay? So, and I can even search for the stuff in it, so it's much nicer. So I just wanted to show you that, okay? And here are some errors, because this is a production, so I only see errors, I don't see huge amount of crap, okay? And then this is a typical error that I've seen many times in AppSource. Can't connect to the database because your database password is set incorrectly or is not reading it correctly. So we know exactly what the problem is here and we can fix it. Now, interestingly, I have an error log here, and sometimes, I don't know where it is, I also have access log, okay? But this error log and access log are from Apache, okay? Now, in the Apache config file, I can change the location where error logs are. So as I said, error logs can be wherever I want them to be. So in this case, I changed a location to be inside this folder. And this folder, funny enough, is, if I go to files and explore the server files, my admin, storage, logs, and here it is. Those are the files. Okay, so error log is here. I don't know why access log is on there. It should be, but weird. And if I click on this, basically I can see kind of similar format that we have seen. So this little web page analyzes this and shows to us in much more readable context. And I'm sure there are many online services where you can upload your error logs and it will do a similar thing for you, so it makes it easier to find things in it and search and so on. But that's where the error log is. Now, very clear. So if the error is a Laravel error, it will appear here. If error is a PHP error, it will appear here. If there is a MySQL error, so I make a request to MySQL and it complains about it, it might appear here or here in Laravel if it's called, but if it's not called, it will go to MySQL error log. Okay? And so on. Now, as you know, Apsos runs multiple applications at the same time. Okay? So if I am developing application called Animus, and I go to my sensors, and this page fails for some reason, something happens, in the error log that I just showed you, I'm not going to see that error. Because Animus is a different application, it's a separate Laravel application in this case, which has a separate log file. So typically what I do, go over to Files, Animus, Storage, Logs, and I can see the errors of just Animus. Okay? So let's look at this. Undefined property standard class data, okay? That's the first line. And that's typically the one which gives me the most of the clues. The rest of it is just what we've seen before. Again, just a lots of noise, the full track of what happened. So we were running daily job, and it was trying to get 24-hour weather forecast, okay? So it was using weather data, and then the property data was undefined, okay? So what does this do is basically fetches the weather forecast, okay? But sometimes we don't get it, okay? So in this case, Menaz and me were looking into it and seeing why is this weather data not working, because we haven't made any changes and it just stopped working. And this is slightly problematic, okay? Because sometimes you try to reproduce the error on your own computer and that works straight away, but sometimes you can't reproduce the error on your computer, okay? And then you have to put everything inside the logs, okay? And I will show you what I mean by that. So you will see this, okay? Now, we were able to quickly debug this because it was easy to reproduce, because we just fetch this data every minute, so every minute we can try it again and again, and we can put some breakpoints and say, hey, what is going on here? And then we figure out that our key for the APIs was limited to 50 requests per day, and we managed to ask more than 50 requests per day, and then it stopped returning us the data, and then the data was undefined. So we paid them some money, and we got the key fixed, and done, problem gone. So as I say quite often, you know, the error message is just telling us where to start looking. Okay, we don't know that the key has a limitation, that we, you know, it was working when we tested it, it was all brilliant, but something happened. Or maybe they changed subscription, or maybe our credit card expired a year later, you know. So this is why these logs are very important to understand. But I can use logs to do something else, okay? I can actually use logs for programming. Now, this is what I want to show you guys. I have multiple different sensors in my garden, which send me the data at multiple different times, and each sensor has its own format of the data. So there are different formats, okay? And I need to store those formats. Okay, so I write the code. But can I test it? The answer is no. I can't tell sensor send me the data now, because one sensor sends the data every hour, one sends it once a day, and one sends it every 6 hours. That's how they are made, because they are battery operated remote sensors, so I can't change that. Okay? So what I wanted to do is log the information that I'm getting, okay? So every time when the sensor sends some data, I put a number of information that was relevant to me, okay? So I said the request is received, and I put the sensor ID which sensor sends to me, okay? This is an early version, because once I got this working, then I actually printed out the data that it sends me in the log, okay? And then next day, I was able to analyze that data, because I didn't know in which format it was before I got it, so I logged it, and then I wrote a script which will take the data and put it in a table, okay? And then I let it run for another day. Okay, and then I got some errors and some, again, inside this error log. Okay, I got some errors, but I also got some of these were successful. So the simple sensor, like a door sensor, brilliant, works fine, I got the data. The one which is more complex, which measures the depth, how full is my compost bin, and the temperature and lots of other stuff, that one I couldn't get easily, so it was throwing errors because I didn't know the right structure. But when I got it, then that one works as well. And the third one, I still didn't have time to do it, but what I noticed is that it starts sending the data, which is a good thing, okay? So now that I have this, it just says that it's all fine, because I don't have any errors. So if I open this, and I don't want that, I want sites, Animus app, HTTP controllers, sensor controller, okay? So basically, was it sensor controller or something else? No, API, sensor APIs. So this is that, okay? So this is when I get a call and I say log info, interrupt data, I received location. So this will just put that message that you saw in a log that I got this call. So the call was made, okay? That was my first thing. Are these sensors calling me at all? Are I the indirect function? Okay, so then I had to decode from the request the bloody device ID, so I logged it. So that's what you see here, these first two lines, chirp data received, and the EUI ID of the device is that. So, okay, and then I can put the date, okay, and then see here, if my data is missing, if sometimes I notice the data was not sent. So sensor calls me, but it doesn't give me any data. That was throwing issues. So then I put this, it's missing data ID, so I can see it in logs. How often does it happen that the sensor doesn't send me the data? Okay, so the sensor has to be connected to the field, okay? Because every field has a sensor, or if it doesn't, then I have to log that in, okay? So I managed to make a mistake. I didn't connect it, so it was, my code was breaking, so I put that check there, if there is no field, okay? And now what I put here, once I get the data, I'm doing this case because, as I said, it's in different format. But I only made it for two sensors, sensor type 1 and 4. And then I put a little message that field switch doesn't exist. So the third sensor I need to add here, and the fourth and fifth as well. Okay? So then I am creating and storing the data. And if I got any exception in this process, I'm going to store the line and the file name where it happens. So basically I'm storing the error logs as possible. Okay? So this code is in try-catch block. It logs everything that needs to be logged. Okay? And it's using proper stuff like info and then error. Okay? So if I then go to my config file of this Animus application, this env, it says now you are in development, debug is true. So this will then write everything. If I then switch off this to production and debug is false, then the log will be much shorter. It will remove these files, these additional comments that I'm printing out. Any questions? No? All clear. So Myrna says cron jobs. Okay? So cron jobs are also an app running on the system. Okay? So that's right, cron job. But if you look at its log, you won't find anything because cron jobs typically work fine. So cron job's task is to call some command. It always calls the command. But where I have a problem is my cron jobs in AppSource are typically PHP, execute some PHP thing, okay? And this PHP can fail. And then if it fails in which application is running. So if cron job is Animus cron job, then any failure in the code will be written in this log that I'm looking right now. So cron's own log file exists, but I never need to check it because the error is 99% going to happen in this file here. Okay? So that's about the cron jobs. But cron jobs, again, are something that happens every now and then. So, and again, it's a perfect example of something that I can test with and see what is happening in my code with logging, okay? So we have emails that need to be sent every week, emails that need to be sent every month, you know, like invoices to the customers for BookYour and many others. How do you test it? How do you make sure it's happening? How do you make sure that all of them got it? You log that stuff and then you can check it a week later. Oh, my customer didn't receive email. It's in the log. You can see why that customer didn't receive the email. And then typically you find out that their bloody email address wasn't correct and that was logged there, you know. Another example is payments, Stripe. So if you use Stripe or any other credit card processing platform to process your payments, and if you create a subscription, which means that customer pays every month, okay? So they subscribe to your newsletter or whatever, your product, doesn't it? So what happens is that when the customer is checking out on your website and they put their credit card details and you send it to Stripe or whoever is your provider, it remembers the credit card on the Stripe system and remembers this as a subscription and remembers every month on 8th of November and 8th of December, 8th of January, every other month, I have to charge this card this money. But the customer is not going to be in front of the computer every month at that time, okay? And this is not even connected to our website. So what happens is Stripe does it automatically without us knowing that it does that. There are no cron jobs on our system. There's nothing like that. Nothing is happening. There are no customers on the site. Nothing is happening. I don't need to program this to make sure it happens every month. Stripe does it for me. And there are two outcomes. Either the payment went through or the payment failed. Okay? And then Stripe, the way we set it up and the way they work, says, what's your URL? I'll give you a call back. I'll call you, your website, your server. I'll call you and tell you, was it good or bad? Okay? So at some point in the future, payment systems such as Stripe might give me a call. But what if it's annual subscription? So you pay every year. Okay, I forgot about it. Oh my God. Okay. The guy paid for a year, but next year it needs to be charged again. Same thing happens. It works exactly the same way. We get the call back. So I don't know what that callback is going to look like. I don't know what do I need to do. I can't reproduce that. That's impossible to reproduce. I can't reproduce, can you make a callback 1 month in the future, 1 year, if, you know, can somebody pay by credit card and somehow I can see that happening? Can you keep doing that so I can test my code and make sure it works? So I can write the code, you know, what I need to happen, you know, so if the payment failed, I typically say send the email to customer and send the email to administrator to notify them that payment failed and block his service. But maybe that email code that I wrote has an error. Maybe I forgot to put semicolon and stuff like that. Okay, so that error would be in your logs. So this is why we need to keep those logs, check those logs, and because they have the payment information every time when payment was made or successful, that's in the logs. I can check them, I can see them, you know, and deal with that accordingly. Any questions?
But then how do you know, like, how you're going to receive the response?
How do I know?
So, like, for example, the payment is going to fail.
Yeah.
How do you know how the response is going to be from Stripe?
Documentation.
How do I know that the response is going to be the Stripe? Okay, so Thomas sent documentation. Yeah, that's a very small, you know. But documentation is generic. Okay, so they say, we will notify you, and the notification might inform this list of parameters which might vary from here to here and so on. Okay? And then you check their request, and typically they forgot to mention 5 things, and there are things which they changed since then, and then there are things that don't apply for your use case, etc., etc. So while documentation is a good, I use the documentation, I believe, and I type my code, so they say status. They say check the status, and if status is okay, then it's okay. If status is not okay, then do something else, okay? But that's not always the case. So this is why I have to print out stuff to log, see that request, see it with my own eyes, because, you know, I just write status, and you know, I realize they put it in a bloody array. So it's not status by status in square bracket 0, and then I get it, okay, because the first status, you know. So there's always, what you say, checking the documentation, but also when I see the data, then I know what to do with it. Any other questions? Anyone online? No. Okay, so we talk about server logs quite a lot. Now, some of our systems are running different applications. Okay, so Animus at the same time is running PHP and all this sort of stuff, and AppSource and MySQL and so on, but it's also running Python scripts to analyze the satellite data. So we have another application which might have its own logs. If I look at metaphors, for example, our Unity project, this bloody 3D world and so on, that's running additional applications which are synchronizing where the players are, who logged in, who logged out. That application has its own log, and I can check it. It might be a different location. Okay, so we had another one where we have those NFTs. Okay, another location. So you can have multiple applications depending on the need. But then we also have a thing called client. So I want to call Thomas, if you can come here, please. Thomas will explain to us what the hell is a client. And then after that, Ahmed, if you can join this Skype call, I'll start the call and you can join it. Just mute and share your screen, what we said before, and I'll guide you through, okay? But anyway, we have Thomas here right now. So Thomas, yeah, you need to attach that somewhere.
Is this good?
Yeah, hope so. So, sorry guys, I'm cold. What's the client?
The client is everything on the front end facing the user. So if you have a website, it is the website page itself, what the user sees on their screen. Or if it's a mobile app, it's the app that's running on their device. So yeah.
So how far is a client from the backend?
About, I don't know. I don't even know how to say that.
Yeah, in kilometers.
In kilometers. I mean, you don't describe that in kilometers. It's just not related at all. Like one sends information, the other receives it and displays it, etc., etc.
Yeah, but they can be anywhere in the world,
Oh, yeah.
basically. And this is what we run client and the server on a developer machine, and we forget that this client is far away on a different device that we have. Okay. So, what are client errors then?
Client errors are problems that happen on the client side of the website or the app. So basically things that happen that have nothing to do with our server, nothing with data, anything. It's just what happens on the front end. So let's say you receive some information from the server and you try to display it, but you didn't get the information the way you expected it. So it's like, I don't know what to do with it. That would be a client error.
Okay, so, but when we talk about websites, okay, we have HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, okay, so where's the error?
This would typically be done in JavaScript then.
Yeah, so programmatic errors are typically JavaScript. Obviously, visual errors are maybe CSS or HTML can be, but typically JavaScript will cause us most errors because more that we use JavaScript and more errors will be in there. Okay, so how are those logged?
Those aren't logged at all. Like you can log those if you're testing, but you cannot see the logs from a user unless you use a specific library or plugin that will let the server know something happened. So it gets a bit more complicated.
So imagine this Animus website that I just showed you, okay? I can see everything, every user who is accessing. You saw access logs earlier. I can see what requests they are making. I can see their device. I can see their IP address. I can see everything, okay, on the backend. But I have 5 million users using this Animus thing on different devices. I don't know what the hell is going on in their browsers on the mobile apps. Okay, so what do we do in that case?
Like I said, there are some public available things, so like Sentry or Google, what is it called again?
Crash Analytics or
Crash
something.
Analytics or I don't know what the name is exactly, but basically what they do is any error that is thrown by JavaScript, it forwards those errors to a specific endpoint on the back end, so you can actually see those errors from a user rather than like have no clue what's going on.
Okay, so there are two ways to deal with this. So we can add additional module to our apps, okay, and then store this information on third-party providers such as Google or Sentry, okay. Now, of course, that has privacy concerns because you have to say in your terms and conditions and privacy that you are going to store that cache information. And quite often you see the question from the apps when you install it for the first time. Do you want to send us anonymous crash or issues or bugs information? You know, and then you can say yes or no, because what they are going to do, upload the log files, they are going to record whatever the hell you are doing inside the app, okay, in much more details than they otherwise do, okay. So that's what these things are for, but the European rules says that customer has to agree with those. So you can't force it, you can just put Sentry and take all the information and not do this, you know, because it's nice and handy. And if I have 5 million users and the app is crashing all the time, then the problem is that I get huge logs to analyze from, okay? So that's a big issue. But I can also store the logs on the app itself. Okay? So if we are talking about mobile app, and if you are on Android specifically, you can go to your file explorer and explore your thing, and you will find logs from various apps on your phone, okay? So it's funny, and then you can check those logs in the same way, you can see what the hell they are doing. And even if you delete the app, log's still there, okay? And other stuff as well. So the alternative to that, if the app crashes, we can say, okay, let's send this log file to the user, or you say, hey, you have a problem, well, why don't you click this button in the app and it will send us the log so we can see what's going on. So there are multiple ways to do this, but the problem is that those logs are not available for multiple reasons. It's hard, it's a lot, it's not exactly legal unless you get a permission. So, yeah. So let's see here if Ahmed heard me and he connected to this and he is sharing his screen. Oh yes, he is sharing the screen, but he is watching us. Okay, so at some point Ahmed will show us the bug that he had, that client had on Slinky. So Ahmed, we can't hear you. So if you can just go to that page, and I will explain what the bug was about, okay? And I can zoom in. Okay. So basically we have this content management system, and right now you can see the bug, okay? Because we have the short description and then we have a long description. And long description can contain almost HTML kind of code, so you can big titles, subtitles, tables, pictures, all sorts of stuff can be there, okay? But the client says, hey, I'm editing this thing and it doesn't work. And then Ahmed looks at it and he sees this. So he manages to reproduce this bug easily, okay? But can't see anything. It just doesn't work. It just keeps spinning forever. It's spinning forever bug. All right? So, guys on the call, what do you think is wrong with this page? How would you come and fix this problem?
On the call or on YouTube?
Well, I'm just checking, just asking people to think about how would you fix this problem. So Ahmed is showing you now one which works. So you saw, but this one just doesn't work, okay? And then he gets this message that pages are responsive, and he can kill the page or not. But the thing is, what happened was even funnier, because Ahmed tried this at home, it worked fine for him, same one. And then the customer tries it doesn't work. And they are like, yes, it works, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does, no, it doesn't. You see it, so he records the screen, if it doesn't work, and this guy records the screen, yes, it works. Now, the thing is that the bug was only in Chrome. And the most typical sentence is used to work before. It was working before, and I didn't touch anything. It's the same as before, it just doesn't work. And that was actually the case. Nobody touched anything. It just stopped working.
It's always like this.
Yeah. So we figure out, well, recently Chrome made an update, okay, and this plugin that we are using probably is causing the problem. But before that, we went to check the error logs on the server.
Couldn't it be something that we can see from the console here?
Well,
Page doesn't load.
page doesn't load, and it then crashes completely.
Yeah, but the page doesn't load, it should be processing something. And you can see what's not processed.
Yeah. Well, nothing useful, okay? So we can see the page which loads, the same page on different browser, we can see what it was loading, etc., etc. So Ahmed is now going to storage logs and stuff like that, for this specific page. But nothing was there. There was no errors in the logs. And as we said, it was only happening in Chrome, and only this latest Chrome version, okay? So we can see, everything works as expected. So then he wrote to these guys who made the plugin, because we say, hey guys, do you know, is this now happening to you? Because, we don't know what's going on. And we said, okay, well, the guy replied, well, try plugin on its own. Because you are using it with many other JavaScript and CSS files, and Ahmed was like, yeah, if I switch on Bootstrap CSS, the page loads and everything works and it's fast as hell, so it must be CSS. I was like, there's no way CSS can destroy the page like that. Yeah, it will slow down, but, destroy them? I don't believe in CSS. Ahmed is like, yeah, it has to be CSS. So we are looking at all sorts of directions, okay? Because this one is very nasty.
CSS is not really a script, right?
Yeah, but it still has to be executed and processed by the browser.
Yeah, but can it actually cause the page to crash?
Well, everything can cause page to crash, but it's very unlikely it's CSS. It will look page to look horrible, but it should still load. Okay, so browsers should be able to handle that. So as you can see, when you don't have these logs, even console logs, so you can reproduce yourself. Of course, we are not using Sentry and other stuff to us to log what are the errors. And then this is a plugin that's causing any error. So it's even if I put logs in my file, I have to put logs in the bloody plugin, because when plugin is doing something, I need to log that. And if I have 50 or 100 plugins, then I have to edit all of them to make sure that they are logging, So So then we just like gave up and say, okay, Thomas, you fixed it. So what was the issue? What did you figure
Well,
out?
the first thing I do when I get an error like this, and I know something is going wrong with a specific section, is I disable the entire section and enable piece by piece of the code to see where it starts freezing. So after doing that, it happened specifically when we were dealing with the long description of the shop. So we know, okay, so long description, we use that plugin, which is basically an HTML editor on that text area. So next thing I do is I check what is actually in that text area. And when you check, you see that the HTML has images, but they are encoded with as a blob. They are not a source like a file. They're literally hexadecimal like strings, so crazy long strings.
So just to explain, because Ahmed asked us what are blobs, okay, and not everybody knows this on the call, okay. So when you say image in your browser, you put a link to either file on your computer or some remote computer HTML link. So that link is 20 characters, 50 characters, or 50 bytes long. But image can be 5 megabytes, okay? Because it's byte by byte, pixel by pixel, color by color. So when we say blob, it means all the data was stored textually, not as a link, not as 20 bytes, but as 5 megabytes inside JavaScript, inside of this component.
Yeah. So, and then what we figured out is that Chrome has a bug when an image blob is used inside a text area. It can cause weird behavior, which doesn't happen in Safari and Firefox and everything else. So that's great, but that doesn't solve the issue. So to deal with it, what we had to do was, instead of putting the content directly in the text area and then applying our plugin to the text area, we had to apply the plugin to an empty text area and then assigning the content afterwards once the plugin already was declared, which is a hacky solution, but sometimes it's the only thing you can do. And yeah, so, but that takes a while to figure that out. And it's, again, the steps I went through was first, okay, can I store this string in a variable? Is this too big for JavaScript? No, that was not a problem. I could console log the variable, no issue. Then I could apply the HTML editor to the text area, so I know it's also not an issue with the plugin itself, because if it's an empty text area, it worked. But if I put the content directly in it, didn't work. If I use the variable to initialize the plugin and then add the variable directly into the JavaScript, then it worked.
But now when you make the image not be like a blob.
You can't, because
Well, the browser understands what blob is, and it will draw the image from that data. So you can pass URL, and then the browser says, okay, that's URL, I'll find the image and put the image. If you pass blob, it will also draw the image.
yeah. But this was a specific bug by the combination of all the elements. An image inside a text area is already not non-standard. But then on top of that, you had a plugin that altered behavior of a text area, which caused even more issues, and Chrome just doesn't handle it well. It loads it, but it loads very slow. So if you have one image, it takes 20 seconds. If you have two images, 40 seconds. And eventually the website just hangs. And that's where the issue came from. But obviously that's hard to figure out unless you really dig in the code and look line by line, because there's no error logging. The page is hanging. You don't know what's going on. So
this is the worst thing that can happen to you, because if the Chrome just does the update and affects just one of your plugins, there's no information online. You know, nobody had that problem before. It's not something that you can Google, okay? So there's no solution for that, okay? They broke something, nobody else did. And that happens more often than you think, okay? But then it had a combination that we couldn't see what the hell was going on inside. There are no logs, Okay, so we can't log stuff which crashes. You know, even console logs, even if we had that bloody Sentry, you know, the whole browser crashed. So what I really need is browser logs, the logs of browser app from that guy's computer. I analyze those, but that is like, you know, browser is doing 5 million things, so those logs will be huge anyway. And find my little website piece, you know. So sometimes we have to do these horrible solutions, you know, by switching off parts of the code to see what works, what doesn't work. Okay. And then do a hacky thing. Oh, you don't like it because I'm putting images in text fields. Text field should have only text. Yeah, but yeah, customer wants image in that text, so yeah. So we have to apply these hacky solutions, and then you apply 25 of these, and the whole internet is barely working. You know, that's how it works. Everything is so patched up. So in 99% cases, logs are our friends, but in this specific ones, logs didn't even, I couldn't see a way to use logs to help us. We had to do it old-fashioned brute force way, and then, you know, use Thomas's ingenuity to fix the thing. Alternatively, we can wait for Chrome to fix it.
Or tell the user not to use Chrome. That is also a great solution.
Great solutions. both will happen straight away. All right, guys, that's it what we have for today. So any questions that you guys might have online, please do send them in the chat. Or any questions that you guys have here in the room? No? Good. I hope it was useful. I hope that you saw how to use logs, and that logs are really your friends, even if they first look like gibberish in Chinese to you. So I hope it helped. And I hope that you can also use logs to debug stuff remotely, etc., because it is quite a useful tool to see what's going on. Well, anyway, thanks for your attention, and talk to you on Thursday. Bye-bye. Okay, stop streaming.